Just calm after killing of Billy Wright in Mays prison. 3 young Dublin children from the same family die in a fire in a van. And some 5,000 homes still without electricity following Christmas storms. Good evening. The Northern Secretary, Dr. Mowlam, has urged the people of the North to stay calm following the shooting dead this morning of the prominent loyalist Billy Wright inside the Mays prison. Wright, who was believed to be leader of the loyalist volunteer force, was shot a number of times in the back. His attackers crawled along the prison roof before shooting him as he was being taken out for a regular Saturday morning visit. The RUC said 3 INLA members subsequently gave themselves up and 2 weapons were recovered. Politicians from all sides have called for restraint for the sake of the peace process.
Among Republicans, Billy Wright from Portadown was the most feared loyalist paramilitary in Northern Ireland. Many of his family had been killed. Several previous attempts had been made on his life.
I have 3 family dead here that died against the IRA, and I've survived numerous murder attacks by the IRA.
This morning he was shot dead at the Mays while on the way to a prison visit from his girlfriend. The INLA gunman crawled over the roof of H Block 6 and jumped into the LVF exercise yard. He then ran across the yard, opened the back door of a minibus and shot Billy Wright up to 5 times in the back. His close friend and fellow inmate, Alec Kerr, who was on Christmas parole, described what happened.
The INLA prisoner were in the visit, and this boy jumped down off the roof of A1, whose name's known as, like, and pulled the visitor's door open, the visitor's farm door open, and shot him 4 times.
Even the graffiti in West Belfast shows the hatred the INLA held for the man known as King Rat. Loyalist sources said they knew the Republican group was planning something. The INLA said it killed him because of what it claimed was the ongoing genocide against nationalists. It insisted the killing did not breach its no first strike policy. Among the many questions which will be asked will be how was the gun smuggled into the prison and why were the INLA and LVF housed in the same H block? Security around what is supposed to be a top security prison was tight today. It's the 3rd serious security breach this year. Just before Christmas, an IRA prisoner slipped out dressed as a woman. Earlier in the year, a sophisticated IRA tunnel was discovered. Tonight, tension is high in nationalist areas. The gates which separate loyalist and Republican communities in West Belfast have been closed. The killing of such a prominent loyalist will have serious implications. Billy Wright's faction, the Loyalist Volunteer Force, has been responsible for some of the most brutal murders seen here in recent years. Loyalist politicians and unionists have appealed for calm. Sinn Féin has warned nationalists everywhere to be on their guard. Michael O'Kane, RTE News at the Mays prison near Belfast.
The Northern Secretary, Dr. Mowlam, said she wouldn't resign over the security breaches, despite a call on her to do so by Ulster Unionist Ken McGuinness. Both Mr McGuinness and the Sinn Féin leader called for calm, while the SDLP leader John Hume said the intention was clearly to undermine the peace process.
Billy Wright first came to prominence at the 1996 Drumcree standoff, where he played a key role behind the scenes. There was controversy when it was revealed that he'd had a meeting with David Trimble when the crisis was at its height. Then he was a leading member of the UVF in Portadown, but with the murder of Catholic taxi driver Michael McGoldrick by those close to Wright, the strains were already showing that would lead to him being expelled from the organisation to form the Loyalist Volunteer Force. Since then, that group has been blamed for a number of killings, including those of 2 GAA officials, Sean Brown and Jerry Devlin. Billy Wright subsequently defied a UVF threat to kill him if he didn't leave Northern Ireland, but today those close to that organisation called for calm.
Well, I think it's a senseless and needless tragedy visited upon a family who have suffered enough. I think we need to look very carefully at the circumstances surrounding this. The INLA moving away from a previously stated no first strike policy, I think, will give us all some cause for concern, and the major paramilitary groups, I think, will be looking very carefully at that. But I think that if there's an intended outcome perceived by the INLA, then we must be cognitive of it. Loyalism must be aware of that and ensure that they don't do what is expected of them.
And given the extraordinary circumstances of the killing inside a top-security jail, there were immediate calls for ministerial heads.
I think the first thing that must happen is that the Secretary of State, the head of the police division at the Northern Ireland office, and the head of the Northern Ireland Prison Service should all resign, and resign immediately. There can be no excuses whatsoever. And if this happened in any other country, I believe if this happened in the United Kingdom, this whole series of events, then we'd have immediate resignations. It must happen now.
I don't personally, at this moment in time, consider it a resigning issue. I think it is a very, very serious lapse of security. I will certainly take it very seriously and look into it, but I'm not at the moment considering resignation.
Are you embarrassed by it?
Of course I'm embarrassed by it. Anybody would be. It's an embarrassing situation, to say the least. What I'm more embarrassed about is what it potentially does to the peace process.
A view echoed by John Hume, who said those behind this premeditated killing also had the intention of undermining the peace process. Jerry Adams said it was a time for calm and vigilance, and said the shooting underlined the need to fill the political vacuum by making progress in the talks when they resume next month. David Davenpower.
A short time ago there were reports of some disturbances in the north. A bus was hijacked and set alight at Harryville in Ballymena. The RUC said around 50 rioters threw stones and bricks at police following Saturday night Mass at the Church of Our Lady. A number of people have been arrested. Earlier, the Minister for Foreign Affairs, David Andrews, urged the greatest restraint on all sides. Taoiseach Mary Harney urged both communities in the north to avoid any overreaction to what she called this dreadful deed. The Fine Gael leader John Bruton said the murderers set out to promote retaliation against their own community to restart a spiral of murder. And the leader of Democratic Left, Proinsias de Rossa, described the killing as an evil act. Now, other news, 3 young children from the same family